So if you ever feel like you're alone in that you love goal setting and go-getting and you're also a Jesus follower, again, here are your people. Welcome. Hey guys, welcome to my new office in our new house. I have two huge closets behind me that I don't even really need. So give me your tips on like what I can do to make this prettier in the background for you guys. Anyway, let's talk about goals. So first of all, I just want to say, like, if you love Jesus and you also love goals and time management and systems and minimalism and all that stuff, you have found your people. You are in the right place. My friends still tease me about what has become this famous Diana quote from many years ago when I was at this conference, and I literally declared to a room full of women something to the effect of, I have plenty of friends who love Jesus, but I really need some friends who love Jesus and goals. So if you ever feel like you're alone in that you love goal setting and go-getting and you're also a Jesus follower, again, here are your people. Welcome. So make sure you subscribe and join my email family below. I'll send you a little freebie, so check that out. So let's talk about Jesus and goals today and 6 tips for choosing your goals and then actually achieving them. So every month I set goals using Power Sheets, which is this amazing goal setting tool created by my friend Laura, who also very much loves Jesus and goals. And so every month I share some tips with you guys based on the goals that I've set for that month and just some general goal setting tips and really just living life intentionally. So my tip number 1 is that good goals take some thought, some prayer, and I'm sorry to tell you this, but they take a little bit of time. So before you even start writing out your goals for the month, whether you use Power Sheets or something else, make a mess brainstorming and brain dumping. I'll show you. Here is my very messy, this is like the facing page here. So here's my nice tending list. Here are the goals I chose. Here is the brain dump of just tons of possible things, and it's messy. So start by brain dumping before you set your goals in stone. And I like to use this page in Power Sheets to jot down ideas for like upcoming months. Like you see Power Sheets here has tabs for each month. And so like I will flip ahead if I'm like, oh, this is something I want to do in October, and I'll write the idea out there. And then when I get to that month, I write down, I just brainstorm like anything that God is convicting me about or nudging me about, or if you guys have any goals that you didn't complete last month or anything on your to-do list, or look at your calendar, capture if there's anything on there that you might want to do. Get it all out. And don't forget to include on there things that are related to your annual goals too, right? Like usually our long-term goals are the goals that tend to be most deeply rooted in our values, our overall vision for our life. But then sometimes we forget to honor those things month to month and make space for them. So I think good monthly goals find that sweet spot of aligning with your big picture and helping you make progress on those big picture things that aren't always urgent, but they're very important. And also addressing some of the pressing pain points or interests that you have right now. So get your thoughts out on paper. That's my first tip. Get it all out, dump it out so you can start to see themes and then maybe see how things might go together and really critically discern what is going to be truly eternally profitable and necessary on your goals and what's maybe not quite as important. Not that anything on there is going to be totally unimportant necessarily, but some things are going to be more important than others. Okay, so tips 2 to 4 are now related to like, how do you choose your goals after you do your brain dump? And this video isn't all inclusive on everything. It's just some tips. But tip number 2 is don't put something on your goals list till you've figured out how and when you will do it. So I choose my goals, yes, based on what's most important and what's most valuable, but also partially considering what I have legitimate bandwidth for. That's why my goals lines aren't all completely filled for the month of August, even though I had plenty of ideas of things that I could fill them with. I could have filled out every single line and more. But before I wrote each individual goal on here, for every single goal, I thought through when and how I would do that thing, because just listing goals on a page is not going to make them happen if they're not realistic and you don't have a plan. And this applies to your daily to-do list too. It's one of those tough realities that we know this intuitively. But please listen up, because I tell this to myself and my coaching clients all the time. Just listing goals or to-dos on a page is not going to make them happen if you don't have the time for them, you don't have a plan, and you don't have motivation. And in fact, I might need to go cross off a thing or two on my daily to-do list right now, just considering that in mind. Okay, tip number 3 is, so we had just moved a week before I set my August goals. So how did I decide what goals to write down related to our home? And tip number 3 is to basically choose goals related to the biggest pain points in an area. I'm not saying you should always do this, but in some cases, this can be a helpful way to choose what goals to tackle. So obviously when you move into a new house, there is an endless, and not new, I mean 1954, new to us. There is an endless amount of things to organize and fix and decorate. And I started by looking at my calendar, and honestly, I set my August goals like a week into August when I was away for the weekend with some friends. So I was like, okay, I have 3 weeks left. I figured I could probably realistically tackle one, but only one house project per week. So that left me 3 weeks for the month. So I felt like I could tackle 3 projects for the month. And I decided to focus on what feels like the 3 biggest pain points right now in our house, which are, number 1, our bathroom is super disorganized. I won't go into the details, but it's very difficult for us to all share it and function in there based on how it is and what our last bathroom was like. And anyway, number 2, I'm pretty sure our shower grout has mold. I think it's mold if some of the grout lines are like totally black in between the tiles. If you have tips on this, let me know. And that seems pressing to me because I very much value our family's health. So that seems pressing and like a pain point to figure out how to remove that, how to maintain it over time. And then number 3, we have no curtains up yet, which means like in our living and dining room, we have no privacy. In the bedrooms, we have shades, but they're not blackout shades. So those are my 3 goals. They're not exactly sexy, fun projects for a house. They're not like the fun things, but that's what I decided was most important for this month. And thankfully, thanks to minimalism, we were 98% unpacked the day after we moved in. And so even though I haven't been able to do much decorating yet, to me, our house still feels pretty homey. It feels very livable, even if we haven't, hung up all of our hanging plants and like hung up a bunch of artwork yet. Okay, so let's talk about daily goals now. How did I choose my daily goals, daily habits, whatever you want to call them for this bottom section here? So tip number 4 is to choose your daily goals based on what would make the biggest impact in your life. Like what is really going to make a difference for you and for others in your faith. So I had a bunch of ideas, but then I narrowed it down to 5 things that I thought would make the biggest difference on my health and my faith. And those were really quick: to do my core compressions to like close up my diastasis recti. I'm like a year postpartum with our second. To do a daily walk and kind of view that as like a mission trip in our neighborhood. To just like talk to people, go deeper, and then also pray through, as we're on that walk, like pray through the Holy Noticing Breath acronym, which I've talked about that in the past. 9:30 lights out is my next goal, daily goal. No TV. And which I'm not necessarily like trying to not watch TV at all the whole month, but just watch less. And then my 5th one is to only listen to audio within the parameters that I've set. And I have a video, I talked about that in my goals video from last month. So if you want to know more about that, that's been really fun and interesting and helpful. So now obviously there are a ton of good daily habits I have that are not on this list. These are more so the things that I need accountability with and that I'm actively working on to establish as good habits. And like I talked about in last month's goals video, it's really helpful for me to have data on how things are going. Tell me if I need to make changes. For example, you guys, lights out at 9:30 has happened exactly 0 times so far this month. I don't think I would realize that if I didn't have this data necessarily, but seeing that tells me like that system, or lack thereof, is not working. Okay, tips number 5 and 6 are about how to actually accomplish your goals once you've set them. Again, this video is not exhaustive of like, here is everything to do, but just I like to just share a few new tips with you each month that you can try to implement. So tip number 5 is to have a consistent time, daily or at least weekly, to review your power sheets and plan any action. For me, this is in the morning when I get to my desk. I do a quick little Jesus-focused morning routine and I reflect on some questions to help me live that day well. And then I look at my power sheets and I will like check off daily goals. I will mark in any progress. And then I'll consider how I could take some steps that day on the things that are on here. So the time of day that you check in on your power sheets could be different for you. It could be each evening. And try to make that specific. Is it going to be like right after you wash your face? Or is it going to be right after the kids go to bed? Or maybe you check in on your power sheets every day during your lunch break. Or you could, whatever, I don't know, keep your power sheets in your bathroom and you look over them while you're getting ready in the morning. I mean, get weird and creative. I'm all about that. Do what works for you. But I have found, and my clients will say this too, my coaching clients, I've heard this over and over the years, having your power sheets open to the page for that month and sitting out in plain sight somewhere and reviewing them daily is so key to helping you make progress on those things that you wrote down. And I forgot to mention that like when you're doing your daily power sheets review, that's also a great time to schedule in any daily habits or even weekly habits into that day that don't already have a set time for them. You guys know I'm all about like trying to have your habits take place at a consistent time so that you don't have to think like, okay, at what point do I want to go on a walk today? And you're like thinking through the whole day and then this and this and this and whatever. Like I know when we go on a walk each day, at what point in our day. So I don't really have to schedule that out into the day. But if there are things like that on your daily actions list or weekly goals that you want to maybe get done that day that need to be scheduled in, that's a good time to do that and make sure that they actually happen. Tip number 6 is to create a list of tasks to help break down your monthly goals. So a lot of times these monthly goals are actually going to be projects, what most people would consider a project, which means that they have multiple action steps within them. You can't necessarily just like look at one of these things and like that doesn't tell you exactly what the action is that you have to take because there's multiple pieces of action to get it done and you couldn't just get that whole thing done usually in one shot. So what I like to do this month, I just did it on paper because then I can have it paper clipped to this side of my power sheets and just check on it and grab things off of there to take action on. But you can also do this. I've done this in Todoist sometimes, which is where I manage my tasks digitally. And that just, it helps me so much to break down these goals. So to look at like, okay, here is a monthly goal, which is actually a project with multiple pieces. I'm gonna break it down into smaller, actionable steps with verbs that are very clear so that I can very easily like pull something off of here and be like, oh yeah, I can fit that into my day. I can run that errand. I can send a Voxer message to that person, etc. Because when it's more clear to us, to our brain, what action we need to take, we are much more likely to do it. And we are much more likely to procrastinate and not make these good things happen. These good goals that hopefully have eternal significance are going to bless you and bless others. We're less likely to make those happen when they're vague and we don't know exactly what the next step is. Okay, so that's it for this month. And to wrap up, I just want to remind you, please subscribe so you can get notified of upcoming videos. Check the link below. I'll put a link to join our email family as well as a link to a free 10-day email series about goal setting pitfalls that I see people make over and over and over again that you do not want to make. Try to avoid this so you don't get frustrated with goals and you don't spin your wheels, again, not accomplishing these good things that matter. One last thing before I wrap up, I want to share this amazing quote with you from Jenny Allen's book, Made for This. I wrote it on my July power sheet as my encouraging words for the month. And, you know, I'll be honest, like as a driven woman, I have often held back from pursuing certain goals or honestly even just setting goals at all because I'm so worried that these passions of mine are also potentially my greatest stumbling blocks as a Christian. And there is some truth to that and being cautious about that, but I'm realizing lately, like, duh, my sin follows me wherever I go, whether I set goals or not, whether I pursue my deep desires or not. My motives are never completely pure because I'm not pure apart from Jesus. And so like trying to pursue someone else's goals or what I think is like this more godly life, but does not actually fit how God made me, doesn't like make me more godly or less sinful typically. So I trust Jenny Allen so much and she is so wise and so focused on the Lord. And so when I was reading Made for This, she was kind of talking about that idea of, you know, not getting paralyzed in fear of like moving forward on something. And she said, what if we just ran despite our thorns and our sin and let God straighten us out as we go? We will regret more of the things we didn't do than the things we did imperfectly. And I've got a video coming soon about the idol of productivity. So, I do think we need to be mindful of these things for sure. So come back for that again, subscribe. But in the meantime, you guys, let's just run full out, okay? Let's run in our lanes unshackled and doing the things that God made us good at and made us to enjoy. And let's bless others and let's glorify Him in the process, okay? All right, deal? All right, I love you guys and I will see you soon. Bye.